Becky Lynch.
The man has come around to Hollywood! Ooh, it's been a while since I said that.
Thank you so much for joining us here at Vulture Festival.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you made it.
I may or may not have shown up at the wrong spot. My driver pulls up, and there's all these people in the most amazing gowns that I've ever seen. Some of them went on for like a block. And I look down, I'm like, I'm very underdressed for this Vulture Festival. And I get out of the car, and this lady goes, are you going to walk the red carpet? And I'm like, no, I didn't get the memo. Nobody told me to wear a gown. And she goes, okay, just go over there, just go over there. So I go over, and I'm like, Becky Lynch? And she's like, I don't see you on the list. And I'm like, I have a panel in there. She was like, a panel? Are you one of the top 100 nominees? Well, I'm a New York Times best-selling author, 7-time women's champion. Vulture Fest. Oh no, honey, this is the Ebony Awards. Vulture Fest is over there. Okay, sorry. I made it.
I'm really happy that you did.
Me too.
So this book, Becky Lynch, The Man, Not Your Average Girl. What inspired you to go from wrestling to writing a book?
So I always loved writing, right? Like my dad, as soon as I could write, was like, write everything down. Like, keep a journal. It's like, Dad, I don't have anything to write about. Write about the price of sweets. You'll be amazed by the inflation. I am amazed by the price of inflation. I went to this is how I know things, you know? I remember getting a pound after Mass, and it was a pound back then. We didn't have the euro. And I'd go into the shop after Mass, and I'd get a can of soda and crisps and a bar of chocolate, and then have money left over for penny sweets. And then you buy a bag of chips, and what is it, $2.75 or something these days? Well, anyway, so I started writing down the price of sweets, and he was right. It did come in handy. Taught me about economics, and so I've always kept a journal. And my favorite wrestler was Mick Foley, and he wrote a pretty good book, and so it was always on my goals. One day, I'm gonna write my own biography, and so. So the time came, and I actually got the book offer before I started writing, and so then the pandemic hit, and I was like, well, this is probably a good time to write a book.
I'm glad you brought up your childhood as well. I wanted to ask, because the book starts in your childhood in Dublin. What was Dublin like back then? Like, what was expected of a girl growing up in Dublin back then?
Well, we had no electricity, and and there was horses on the road. No, it was. I actually think that. And I could be wrong. Well, I don't know. I could be wrong in saying this, but I think the expectations of women in Ireland may have been different than they are over here. Like when I was growing up, the first president I remember was a woman, and the second president I remember was a woman, and so I grew up in a household where my mom was the predominant breadwinner, not necessarily by choice, but that's how it was, and so I don't ever really. I think the first time I remember being like, okay, you need to get involved was. You know, I grew up in a very Catholic family, and you weren't allowed to be altar girls, you know. And then I remember when they let you be altar girls. And I was like, great, I won't be bored during mass anymore. And so I was like, oh yeah, this is it. But I'm like, I'm part of the movement. But really, I just wanted extra wafers and not to be bored at mass. No, but I did want to be part of the movement. So I kind of always felt like there's no reason I wouldn't be able to main event WrestleMania. I mean, apart from my obvious shortcomings, such as failing PE and being a complete stoner and waster. But like, it wouldn't be because of my gender,
So you weren't like a tomboy jock type.
Oh, I was, yeah.
Oh, you were.
No, yeah, I was a little tomboy. I had an older brother, so anything he wanted to do, I wanted to do. So I remember discovering Polly Pockets and like reluctantly playing with them, like, I'm just like whatever. Yeah, but like, I want G.I. Joes too, But I also loved Polly Pockets and stuff.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
They're cute.
They're making a comeback.
Yeah.
I can tell you this because I have a 3-year-old making a comeback.
Oh.
I'm like, I kept them all for times like this.
Wait, really? She's playing with your old Polly Pockets?
No, well, they're in Ireland, But I could have them, yeah.
Yeah, they might be
One day
worth
she will.
something. I mean, collectibles.
No, they're for her to play with.
Oh, okay.
But economics.
Yes,
I learned
exactly.
about that at a young age. Yes, inflation.
You brought up Mick Foley earlier. He's your favorite wrestler, and he also helped you a little bit with this project, did he not?
Yeah. So he was amazing. Like, when people say don't meet your heroes, they, what? I don't think they're talking about wrestlers, because any of my heroes that I had growing up, like Lita is one of my favorite people, Mick Foley, one of my favorite people, The Rock. Just a bunch of lovely lads. So anyway, I asked him for advice, and he took my manuscript. He wanted to print it out because he wanted to make notes on all of it. And he spent 8 hours on the phone one day with me, just going through page by page. And he was like down to the details, like commas and full stops. I was like, I think I'll have a copywriter for that, Mick, but go on. Yeah, amazing.
And he's also the wrestler that got you into wrestling, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. Well, like, so I remember growing up watching, like, it was always on my house. We'd dress up and, I loved Hulk Hogan and The Ultimate Warrior and all that stuff. And then I fell out of it at like 5 because I was too old. And then maybe I was 8. Probably 8. And then my brother was watching it, like, right at the Attitude Era, and Mick Foley would be on. And I was like, that stuff's for babies, but he's kind of cool. And then I just want to know what happened to him. And he would hook me in with his promos. And I was like, wow, storytelling, this is amazing. And we're telling stories in the best way possible, through violence,
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, something I've always wanted to ask you is how you feel when you're writing a book like this that's about your real life, and you're part of an industry that for a very long time, like when you were growing up, there was kayfabe, it was very strict, people kept their personal life separate from their professional life in wrestling, and now that's kind of blurred. How do you feel about that? Do you kind of long for the days when you could just live the gimmick and go hide, or do you like sharing yourself?
We didn't have social media back then, or they didn't, So I think that has a lot to answer for it. But, do I long for the days of a little bit of mystique? People don't know what I had for breakfast. I mean, it's more popular than it ever has been. But, I mean...
I mean, you seem to...
Can I turn this over to the audience? What do you think? Do you long for the days of not knowing, or do you like the gossip? You love the gossip. I love the gossip too. Yeah, you like to know what's going on behind the curtain, but then you really want to believe, oh yeah, no, but they really hate each other. They really do. No, because I heard, you know. But that's fun, right?
Yeah.
That's fun too, because then when you really hook them, there's more gratification.
Yeah. I love when I'm watching wrestling, I love the feeling of not knowing when they manage to get me to a place where I'm like, I'm not sure if I know what's going on right now, whether this is real or not. And it's such a magical feeling of not being quite sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but then, you know, then it turns real, you know, because feelings get hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're all a little sensitive, aren't we? You know, in the entertainment industry. Yeah. No, we're tough-skinned. But I think it can have that, you know, there's a phrase in wrestling, I don't know if you've ever heard it, but don't work yourself into a shoot, right? And so, you know, it's all supposed to be a work and it's all collaborative, but it's not necessarily that. And that's not always the most interesting things, aren't always going to be when it's collaborative. It's when somebody goes off book and they say something that they shouldn't, and then everybody's like, ooh, and now that's money, you know, because now you want to see them fight and you want to see what happens in the fight because somebody might throw a real shot and then what's going to happen from that, and that might be a real scrap. And so that's the fun thing about wrestling. Anything can happen.
Yeah. I love that. I want to go back to your youth. After you discover wrestling, you get into wrestling, you're a wrestler, you go to Canada. There's a story in the book about fighting a woman named Mischievous. And she's also the only girl in the promotion. You're kind of at this phase in your career where you're finding yourself being the only girl around. Was this a period where you started to realize that your gender might be a thing that you have to deal with?
No, I don't think yet, because I was the best. I was the only girl, so of course I was the best, you know. So I didn't know. I think I was just really innocent in that, you know. And then when I had other girls to wrestle, I was like, oh, this is cool, you know. And I had that confidence of being the best, not because I was the best, but because for the first 3 years of my training, I was the best girl in Ireland. Because I was the only girl in Ireland. But there's a confidence that comes from being the best. Yeah. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are, you know? And sometimes you have to lie to yourself to give yourself those circumstances.
And you were really young. You were a teenager.
I was 18, yeah.
Yeah, and you went all the way to Japan at that age. Yeah. And I actually have a clip I wanted to show. This is you.
Is this me wrestling a bull?
It is. I was actually gonna say it might be low quality, but you are the person who's not dressed as a bull. So can we play that first clip?
This was at a time when things didn't all live in
さあ徐々にそのブルーホワイトそれがパワーでレベッカノックスを追い込んでいきます。さあこのブレーンバスターをきっちりと決めたいが足をロックされている。木村京子もフォローに入る。最近成功率上がりましたね。
上がりましたね。
ブレーンバスター。私が考えるにブレーンバスターって言わなきゃもっと成功率上がる。
もっと成功率上がるんですけどね。
かわされてしまいました。おお、そしてラナー。おお、しかし危ない危ない。おっとカウント3つ。なんかその前の木村京子のカットが悪い作用になってしまったような気がしないでもないですね。
牛とキムの息の合わなさですね。
見事なそのコミュニケーションのなささというか。そうですね。むしろこの自分のコミュニケーションが。
You look really happy there. I think that looks like a lot of fun, right?
Wow. Yeah. I'm just looking at that weak kick out. Why did she kick you like that? I remember, so that was my second time in Japan. The first time I got brought over by a promoter named Shima. And he was like, I make you a star. And he's like, you look like Britney Spears. I did not look like Britney Spears, lads. But I had blonde hair and brown eyes when I was a teenager, so right. I'll take it. And he was like, I'm gonna make you a star. And he put me on the front cover of all these magazines. I didn't even have enough money to buy proper ring gear. Like you saw that. It was terrible. And anyway, but he promoted me. Amazing. Like the main event of Cork and Hall. All this stuff. People were running and giving me flowers. And that night I left Cork and Hall and they were chasing me down like I was Harry Styles. And I was like, oh wow, I'm a celebrity now. I've made it. And then this advertising agency in Japan came to me, and they were like, oh, we make you Sharapova of wrestling. There was this tennis player, and they wanted me to release singles. Lads, I can't sing. I can't sing at all. But they were going to make me a pop star, and I was like, oh, you're going to make me famous? Great. Pay me money? Great. Signed on the dotted line. And then I come over and I wrestle a bull. And Shima then, who was going to be the one to make me a star, but then the other people offered me more money, and I was like, well, they offered me more money, so. And then he came and he was like, oh, you no good. You no good. What was that? No good. And he was, it didn't age well. He was right.
Well, I mean, one thing that strikes me about that is, to put it in the context of the time, that match is 12 minutes long. And that week, I looked it up, there were no women's matches on SmackDown. There were no women's matches on TNA that week. That was a big deal to get to wrestle that much. Did it feel like cool? Like you were doing something kind of subversive or different?
Well, I knew I wanted to wrestle in Japan, but I wanted to be one of the good ones. And so I wanted to go over there. I wanted to learn. I wanted to train. And I knew that in Japan, those women were having matches better than any guys that I'd ever seen. And so that I knew that was where I wanted to be. But you know, I think I was innocent and. Maybe unprepared. I didn't have a guiding force over there then, you know. I didn't really have anybody to look after me and say, okay, look, this is what we're gonna do. Relax. I had Shima, but I was very scared of him. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and then later you talk about going to Europe, and I enjoy the scene in the book where you talk about meeting two guys that you work with, or that you worked with now, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Ah, my boys!
In Italy. Talk about meeting them for the first time. That's so cool.
Man, the minute I met those guys, I just loved them. Just, you know, they remain to this day two of my closest friends in the world. And they're the best. The audience loves them because they're the best. They're genuine. They're incredible wrestlers. But, you know, I remember, like, I think I walked past Kevin and then just sat behind him. And I think he was just, like, lying down and he just popped his head up. And he was like, hi, I'm Kevin. And then and that was it. And then we were just, like, friends from there on. I think Rami was, like, sitting behind me and then he popped his head over and was like, and then we just chatted and then we hung out the entire tour, and the girl who I was supposed to wrestle never showed up, so I ended up like in triple threats with those lads and tag team matches with them, which probably live on the internet somewhere and probably a lot better than what we just watched, but not sure. I'll remember them as better. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. And then you go through a period where you're working, you leave wrestling for a while.
Yeah.
And you go to study personal training in Florida.
Yeah.
Now I want to know if you keep anything from that personal training course that you still use to this day.
I call myself Bad Technique Becky. If that has anything to... No. I honestly didn't go really, I don't think I went with the intention of helping people. I was like, I like training, so therefore I'd like a training course. But I don't think I necessarily loved training other people.
Okay, yeah. And you were away from wrestling for a while.
7 years.
Yeah. And during that time, you lived in New York, you went to Chicago, and you discovered theater at one point. What did you love about theater?
The same thing I loved about wrestling, right? That in the moment, that for the audience, that communication, right, between yourself and the audience, and that sharing our human experience, and also forgetting our human experience that we're going through, because for those hours, you know, you want to get lost in whatever is happening in the world, what's happening on stage, both for the performer and the audience. And you know, I think that's the biggest thing. That's life, isn't it? Right? We're all trying to communicate our shared. Hopefully, you know what? I just want us to communicate more our shared experiences than our differences. But you know, not in wrestling though. No, not in wrestling. What am I talking about? But you know, like it's. Now I'm going down a rabbit hole. because that is part of our shared experience, right? Is the disagreements, is we are always clashing against a foe, and we're always the hero of our own story, and we're always facing a villain, and sometimes you don't know who the villain is and who the hero is. And I feel like that's all life, right? And I love it. I love the communication with the audience. I love it happening in the moment. I love getting lost in that.
Mm-hmm. Is that why you couldn't get wrestling out of your system, even with the acting?
Yeah, well, people weren't cheering for me. You know, like they were being polite, and they were quite like so. Wrestling is unlike anything else. It's a drug. You're getting that instant feedback. So you can go out and you can do a performance on theater, and you can have a play, and it's all full of emotion and drama, and you love it, and you know that it's gone well. But you don't know that the audience have loved it until you go out past the curtain call, and they're either clapping or they're walking out. I've had both. But in wrestling, you know exactly how you're doing moment to moment, because the audience is telling you. They are participatory. They're part of the show. They're part of the show. You know, like you can't do it without them. You know, we tried during the pandemic. It was awful. It was awful. You know, we weren't getting that feedback, and that's why I was like, peace. And so that's what's so special about wrestling. Yeah. Is you're as much of a part of the match as we are.
Yeah, and then through
except you take way less bumps, so you're smarter, you know.
Well, through acting, you end up getting a WWE tryout.
Yes. Because
you're training to do stunt work.
And I was a liar. Essentially, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if anybody knows this story, but I had gotten my degree in acting, and then I was like, oh, Hollywood, here I come. And I started handing out my resume and my headshot, and nobody wanted to call me back until it landed at the Vikings that was filming in Ireland at the time. And they were like, oh, a stunt woman. And then they called me, and they were like, you do stunts? I was like, yep, sure do. I do not know what I am doing. So then I went down to a wrestling school to try and apply my knowledge of fighting, pretend fighting, to Hollywood pretend fighting. And worked out well for me.
Yeah. I love that part of the book when everyone's like, where have you been? We were worried about you. Where did you go?
Yeah.
People missed you. Even though, you know, you didn't feel like you'd broken through. You had, in a way. People were really like, where's Rebecca Knox? Where'd she go?
Yeah. It happened kind of several times. I think, you know, when I left I'd gotten to a bad place in my life. I didn't think that what I wanted was possible. I was 19. I was like, I'm too old for this. Time to give up on the dream, get a real job. And I thought that everybody hated me because of that, because I couldn't. I just left. And turned out they didn't care. So people just, we're always thinking that people are thinking about us as much as we're thinking about ourselves. And they didn't. They were just concerned for my well-being, which was very nice to find out.
Yeah. And you come into NXT, and it's different than the indies that you had experience on. How was it different?
It was a Shark Tank. It was a Shark Tank back then, man. It was like... in the indies, it was like this wacky, wild circus, and everybody was happy to be there, and everybody was excited to work with one another. And there was a little bit of that in the PC, but there was also a sign that said, "You're not here to fill a spot, you're here to take a spot." So it was very much about this competition. Like the first day, Bill DeMott, who was the head trainer there, his big speech was, look to the person to the left and look to the person to the right, because in a few months they're not going to be there, and only one of you is going to get through. So there was that competitive aspect, and then there was all these rules, like women couldn't hit, and you couldn't punch, and you couldn't do anything that looked violent. What? Like I couldn't. There was bans on suplexes I could do. Like it was, and I was just happy to be there. And I was like, oh well, I don't want to get fired, because then, there's no chance that I'll ever main event WrestleMania. Every day was a test. Like you had to. Every day I was scared of getting fired, and every day I was pretty close to getting fired.
Well, you were very game. You were very spirited. I have another clip I want to show.
Oh, no.
It's your TV debut for NXT.
Oh.
Like clip number 2. The clips get better after this, I swear. Can we play that one?
Tequila in this joint?
Her opponent from Dublin, Ireland, Becky Lynch.
There's even someone who has a sign that says, "We want Becky Lynch." That's great.
This guy just looked at me with such disgust. He was like, you did that. You did that. Yeah, and then I main evented WrestleMania, and what?
Well, you talk in the book, that got an interesting reaction from Triple H when you went back and asked him what he thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could tell you were excited to be there. Yeah. Excitement crack is what I call it. That's what he said to me.
Yeah.
I was like coming to him like, what did you think? You ready to put me on the main roster? But it was a different time, man.
Yeah.
Was it? I don't know.
Well,
that's what I'm just gonna tell myself.
Yeah. Well, it was. And then you started reworking your character with Dusty Rhodes and Ryan Katz. What was that like?
Amazing, right? Dusty saved my job. He's the reason that I got there, because I wasn't, like, I was so worried about everything that I did. I couldn't put one foot in front of the other in the ring. Like, I was terrible. Like, it wasn't for nothing that I was almost fired. Like, I should have been fired. But I could talk, and I could come up with ideas that weren't necessarily good, but I would commit. And if nothing else, I committed to that shit. good, bad, or indifferent, I was committed. And so he saw that. And Dusty, I think Cody said it, Dusty loved his broken toys. You know, I remember LA Knight came in there, Sean Ricker, and he'd go up and he'd cut these promos and he looked amazing. And Dusty was like, I can't do anything with you. You're ready to go, you know? And so, but I would go up there doing these wacky things, and he had somebody to help, and he could like go through and like look and search, and okay, there might be something down there. Wait, hang on, let me just move that around, and yeah, all right, okay, you'll be fine, you know. And so, but he's the only person one of the only people. William Regal was another, but that saw something in me. So thank God, yeah.
And it worked out because we have another clip that'll cleanse our palate from what you just saw. No, this is a cool one. This is a cool one. Can we play clip number 3? This is your steampunk entrance. Your first one. That's awesome.
You know, I knew I shouldn't have worn the goggles. Like, I knew they should have been just on my head, because that was like Billy Gunn was like, well, if you're not gonna wear the goggles, then what's the point in having them? And I was like, yeah, but they're part of the look, you know, in case I need to do some welding on my way to the ring. Just never needed to wear the goggles. Sorry, anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a much cooler look.
Yeah, and your music.
You can tell that I was so nervous because I keep just like doing this. When in doubt, throw up some rock signs.
You don't look nervous at all to me. This is around the time when the Four Horsewomen are becoming a thing. I wanted to ask, because I remember watching an interview with Bayley a while ago where she was talking about Damage Control, and she was saying that she always wanted to have a women's faction in WWE. And I always wondered, you know, it would be so great to have a Four Horsewomen faction, to have had that. Is that something you wish would have happened or could have happened?
I think it was always on the table, bubbling under the surface, one of those things that was like break in case of emergency. And then, you know, sometimes when you let something go for too long, then it's just gone and the magic's gone. I think one of the things was that it was a thing that kind of everybody knew about, but it was never established. And I could be wrong, but I think Vince never got it. Like, he didn't understand. He was like, what this Four Horsewomen, they've never had a match together, as in like actually we never had a match together on the main roster, like as in against each other. We never had that 4-way. We had tag matches, but like he never understood. They were like they were never a team. Yeah, but there was something else behind that, and there was something special behind them. But anyway,
yeah.
Alas, I mean, maybe you never say never.
Yeah. And you started using social media pretty early on to establish yourself. I think that's where you first referenced the man. That's when you first became the man. Do you remember what gave you that idea?
Well, I was the man. No, it was one of those things. I had a friend that I would text when I was nervous, you know, and he'd say, "You're the man." And I was, yeah, I'm the man. You know, and I was in that storyline with Charlotte, and it was kind of like a natural thing to then start calling myself the man. And to be fair, I was the man.
You go through a period after you come to the main roster where they're trying to turn you heel. They're trying to get the crowd to boo you. And
When I came to the main roster?
when you were against Charlotte, and they were like, "Oh, this is a heel crowd in Brooklyn, so they're gonna."
Oh, sorry. This
cheer
is
you."
after after
Sorry,
I
I'm
turned
jumping
on her.
way
Yes,
ahead.
Yeah.
I'm jumping ahead. I don't want to miss.
A couple of years.
anything.
Yeah.
They're trying to make you heel. They're trying to get the crowd to boo you. Why wasn't it working?
Because I was a baby face. I don't know who watched that story and was like, "Oh yeah, that's the asshole." Like, I'd been the one who was always overlooked, the one that was always scratching and clawing and, real happy and full of nervous energy and like this lovable idiot that came out and, or maybe just an idiot, I don't know. But there's something lovable about that. And I'd find the audience were getting behind me and they really wanted to see me have my moment. And then Charlotte, who not by her own doing, but had been champion, the longest reigning champion. She'd been, multiple, I think she was already an 8-time women's champion or something crazy like that. And when I was about to have my singles match at SummerSlam with Carmella, they put Charlotte in the match. And we're like, oh yeah, Becky's gonna turn on her. And by the way, they were like, it needs to be justified. So she ended up winning by pinning me, who had already got Carmella in an armbar. And by the way, by hitting me from behind. So the storytelling was so off and was so wrong and it was so great. Because it really worked in my favor, but that's why. Because it was told wrong. It was just the story was told with the wrong person being the bad guy.
Yeah, there are a couple times in the book where you talk about when the audience can see the machine getting behind you is when it kind of doesn't work for you to get a babyface push. What do you think makes a good heel in wrestling, and what makes a good babyface?
How long do you got? I suppose that's... You have to know what your job is as a heel, right? And you have to know that your job is to make the babyface. Your job is to make everybody cheer the good guy. Your job is to make sure that people aren't thinking that you're cool. People aren't going to want you to win. They're going to want the babyface to win. And on the other side, as a babyface, you need everyone to like you. And that's very difficult because we like assholes. But there's more than that, more than just putting it down to that. There's so much freedom when you're a bad guy, right? When you don't care what anybody thinks. Like, you think of the people that you like the most, and most of them don't care what anybody thinks of them, or at least they act like that. And maybe that's not always the case. Anyway, the point is we want to be unshackled by people's opinions of us. We don't want to care what anybody thinks about us, but we do. And so when you have the freedom to not care, then you're free to be a lot more entertaining. And so it's a lot easier to be a likable heel than a likable babyface who's just fighting valiantly and always doing the right thing. But also that's not particularly interesting because nobody's like that. We all make mistakes, but you make too many mistakes and you're an idiot. Nobody likes that. And so anyway, it becomes this thing. So what is a likable babyface? I don't know. Somebody entertain me, right? And somebody who's vulnerable and honest and genuine. Somebody that that you want to go for a pint with, you know? You want to have a cup of tea with them. You want to have a chat, you know? You don't want to root for somebody you don't want to have a chat with, do you? Right? Yeah, okay. Right, so right. And then the heel, you don't want to go for a chat with them. You don't want to have a cup of tea. You want them as far away from you as possible. That's my simplified version of what makes a good heel and what somebody you want to have a chat with.
Great. Let's play another clip. This is the Royal Rumble. No, this is a good one. This is a good one. You're going to like this one. Let's play the Royal Rumble clip.
She's measuring her.
Oh, Charlotte Flair set over the top. Charlotte Flair's been eliminated. Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Here's your winner, Becky Lynch. Becky did it. Man, oh man.
Entire Chase Field is all in support of the man tonight.
That looks like a baby face to me. That looks like a baby face to me. Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to ask about your relationship with Charlotte. It kind of got maybe worked into a shoot.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Where do you stand now? No comment?
No comment. You never say no comment. That's awful. Yeah, you know, like, fine. We'll work together. You know, we're not calling each other for a chat, you know, or for a pint. But you know, I think look, there's always going to be love there on my end. You know, on my end, there's always going to be love and respect and admiration, and there's, you know, I think that's when things become the most tumultuous is when you have that love, and then, you know, you feel these two needs and these two objectives essentially just pulling away from each other. And but, you know, at the base of it all, we've been through so much, you know, and we've made so much history together. And she's going to go down as one of my one of the people that people are always going to associate me with, you know, and the feud that people are going to remember I probably more than any other. And that's because of all the real emotions that go into it, which then you bring it back to your question about kayfabe, and people were always going to be interested in that because what is underneath all of it? What are we seeing on TV? And then what's going on? What's bubbling under the surface? And when is that fight going to turn into a shoot fight?
Yeah.
And it has happened many times.
I'm curious if it's hard in general. I mean, you write in the book when you two were separated by the brand split, you write that you were crying, hugging each other like we were being separated by war. We were now islands unto ourselves. Is it difficult to maintain friendships in this industry in general because you're kind of always competing against each other?
Not always. No. I have some great friends. And, you know, I suppose, you know, I've had that friendship with Kevin and Rami, but we were never competing for the same spot.
Right.
But, like, Natalia, who I've known since I was 18, and we were on that first tour of Japan, not the one where I wrestled the bull, together, and you know, we text all the time, and I was talking to her earlier. It depends.
Yeah. Great.
Depends.
And you, after that Royal Rumble win, you're on the road to WrestleMania. And I want to play another clip. A very good clip. A clip that'll make you very happy. Can we play that clip number 5?
Story we need to see. The man is
There
now
we go.
Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion.
I would love to have a more conclusive ending to WrestleMania. Either way, say congratulations to the man, to Becky Lynch, for her dreams coming true.
But, well, tonight will indeed be known as WrestleMania. Becky Lynch is Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion.
I was so excited to get the fireworks. I didn't expect them. I was like, I'll probably cut that.
I think that was like the last WrestleMania that was all one night,
Sure was.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was. To be fair, I think it was April 7th. I think I went out on April 8th. So kind of was a 2-day WrestleMania, just not intentionally.
Yeah.
That was the longest WrestleMania. It was like something like 8 hours or something.
Yeah.
And then I think, the pandemic hit. But then they were like, yeah, let's move this to 2 nights.
Yeah, yeah. And you can hear the announcers that are talking about how they want a more conclusive end. But did you have any sense about the Rousey shoulder?
No, I had no idea at the time. I remember being like, I thought they'd be happier. But then I just realized they were confused. Yeah.
And the sound doesn't hit you, right? Like you're kind of...
No, it takes a while in those stadium shows because the roof is open. It sometimes just the sound escapes. Or sometimes if it's got a dome, then it takes a while to come back down. So it goes up. It's a ceiling.
Yeah.
And so you never know really what's happening.
I mean, you've got a lot going on right there in that clip. You've won WrestleMania. You've got family in the audience. You're also starting to date a new interest of love.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Seth Rollins. Talk a little bit about...
It went well.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about struggling with whether to take that relationship public.
Oh God, yeah. That was one of those things, right? Is that wrestling relationships can get messy, you know? And I'd never been in a relationship that hadn't broken up, and neither had he. And it's one of those things when, especially when you're kind of climbing to the top, and you know, you don't want anything to take the wheels off the car. So it was one of those things we weren't sure if we would come forward with it, and then if we came forward with it, well then surely Vince would want us in a storyline. No, he didn't.
Well, you did.
He did. And it was bad.
I want to jump ahead. The pandemic happens. The audiences are gone. We're getting this kind of experimental theater version of wrestling where it's quiet, and I found it very interesting as a TV viewer.
I felt like that's all you could hear in the arena.
Yeah, pretty much, yes. Confirmed. But I want to play this next clip of a moment where your relationship, your personal life becomes very public, but in a way I think is quite beautiful. Can we play that clip number 6?
You are the champion now, and as happy as you are to be the champion, I might be a little bit happier. So you go and be a warrior, because I'm going to go be a mother. Oh, I love her.
She's gonna get that chant going. And you had to really fight for that moment. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the whole thing was supposed to go down in this crazy way where they wanted me coming out and like challenging Charlie Caruso, who was the backstage interviewer at the time, and then Oscar would come out and I would say all these just elaborate, verbose words, you know, and it was bad. It was just very bad, but I was also very hormonal, and so I was fighting. I was ready to punch somebody, but I was like, it's okay because, you know, this is my free pass. You know, you got to know what hills to die on, but when you're early weeks of pregnancy, you don't know those hills, you know. You'll die on all of them, and so yeah, I was ready to fight, and I fought, and so it was better than it was otherwise intended.
Yeah. This is also the part of the book where Vince becomes a character in the book. And I know you've been asked about this to death. I just a little bit.
About Vince?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. A few times.
I just wanted to know, like, is it frustrating for you with this kind of hanging over things? Is it frustrating to feel like you have to address something like that?
Is it frustrating? No, I don't think it's frustrating. I had my experiences with Vince, and they were all, for the most part, apart from him yelling at me at one point after WrestleMania, very good, and he treated me very well and with a lot of respect. And I know that is not the experience everybody had, but also you know, there's so much that that you have going on in the world of wrestling, and it's hard to differentiate the person, all the things that they've done that we're aware of, even then, you know, and who they are and who you're interacting with in that moment. And I suppose we're all just interacting in the best way that we can in the moment with each other, and then judging each other on the experiences that we have with them at that time. And yeah, and so then you're dividing yourself from the experiences that you've had, and then the things that you're aware of that happened in the past, and then the things that you find out that have happened, and then that becomes a whole.
Yeah. Did it affect anything that you decided to put in the book? I know it kind of, like, his stepping down and everything kind of coincided with when you were working on this. Did that affect any way that you wanted to talk about him in the book?
Well, so I had kind of finished the book for the most part by the time he had stepped down, and then I was like in the editing process, and it would have been hard to kind of navigate. So anyway, I just kind of had to keep to my experiences. These were my experiences that I had with Vince, and so that's
fair.
Yeah.
So you're away for a little while. You have your beautiful daughter Rue.
Oh, she's the best.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
she's
she's 3 now?
She's three, nearly 4.
Yeah. Ooh. And then you decide to come back at SummerSlam, which we have another clip of. Can we play the clip?
Oh, somebody was there.
Yeah.
What do you say? The EST and the man blow the roof off this joint. For the SmackDown Women's Championship.
Is that official?
I believe Bianca's accepted the challenge from Becky Lynch. It's official, the bell rings, and here we go. Belair, Lynch for the SmackDown Women's title at SummerSlam.
I thought we had too many dream matches tonight and we somehow add one more.
And Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch is taking care of business with a manhandle slam. Cover on Belair. Lynch wins the title. Lynch wins the title. Lynch wins the title.
Here is your winner, and the new SmackDown Women's Champion, Becky Lynch.
Bianca Belair is staring back at Becky like, what the hell just happened?
Tricky.
That's how you turn heel. That's getting the story right.
Yeah, how did that feel?
Oh, great. Like, you know, it was one of those things where it was so sudden and it was so last minute. Nobody really understood what was going on. But it was one of those things where I knew where we wanted to go. And I just knew that the challenge was going to be keeping it on track, right? Because I knew that then we go to WrestleMania and she wins the title back, and that's great. And then, because she's wonderful, Bianca Belair. Oh,
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah.
I love her. Yeah, round of applause for Bianca. She's the best. She is the EST. But you know, she didn't know me. She had no reason to trust me that I wanted to give that back to her and make her a bigger baby face. My job as a heel was to make the audience like her and not like me. And it was going to be hard if they were going to turn me heel, coming back from being a big baby face, and then from I just had a baby. I'm a ma. You know what I mean? You don't want to punch a ma in the face. Maybe some mas you do. Anyway, So that was one of the, and people were mad. Like, people were so mad, so mad, rightfully so. But that was good. That was what I wanted, you know. Kayfabe.
Mm-hmm. You also called a friend before that match.
I did call a friend.
You called a friend named The Rock.
Yeah.
How often do you call The Rock?
Oh, DJ.
DJ?
Yeah, I call him DJ.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Dwayno. No, I don't. Don't call him Dwayno. I will now. But yeah, no. From time to time.
Mm-hmm. He's offered you a lot of support.
He has offered me a lot.
Yeah.
He's the loveliest. This wrestlers, great bunch of lads. You know, great bunch of lads. Like, never meet your heroes. They'll only disappoint you. Doesn't apply to wrestlers.
Yeah. We only have a few minutes left, so I wanted to talk to you about the future of Becky Lynch. The people are speaking.
Well, lads. You know, I'm training for this half marathon. I've been working on some other stuff I can't really talk about. But like, if you think that the way I'm gonna go out after the career that I've had is with Dominic Mysterio slamming a door in my face, well, that's probably not gonna happen. But when will that come back? I don't know. I've really been. Yes, daughter. I've really been enjoying myself and working on some projects that I'm very excited about. Whenever I get to share them with you, I think they're pretty awesome. I think you're gonna think they're pretty awesome. And yeah, we will see what the future holds. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask one more fun question.
Oh, go on.
You've talked about you would be supportive if Rue wanted to be a wrestler. Would you ever want to do something like a custody of Rue match?
That match would be awesome. That'd be so good. Yeah. What? Yeah. I don't know that people would buy it.
Yeah, I would.
I'm kind of #1 Seth Rollins fan over here. I don't know anyone would buy it. But that would be awesome.
What if Rue was going to go into wrestling as a kid? What would her gimmick be? Do you think? Do you think she would have a good one?
If she
now?
was going to go right now?
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday she wanted to be a dinosaur, so I don't know, you know. Today she wanted to be a ballerina. No, she's very specific on her costumes. I will say that. Like her outfit choices, the time that we spend every morning. Just like her dad. Except her dad's got a much bigger closet. But yeah, and a lot less pink, to be fair. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well,
Who has a lot less pink? Yeah.
Well, we're out of time just about, so we're going to do the signing outside. And thank you so much for coming here. Let's hear it for Becky Lynch.
Thanks, guys. You rock.